if you just think about what happened last year, right, with the Trump tariff tantrum, we'll call it the T cubed event, we've got a 20% drawdown on something that was totally in one man's, initiation and hence control to reverse. This
Yeah.
situation, is much worse, right, with the real economic impact on the economy globally, and much more risk that it spirals out of hand. Much more risk that it spirals out of hand. And if we get a tail event with this, we don't want to go there, right? So this is
Yeah.
far worse than last year. And what's the S&P down? 4%, 5%. I'm looking for I'm
Barely
looking for
moved.
a much bigger drawdown before I put my capital back into the market from the things I've sold. So I
Okay.
have three or four names I intend on buying. I would hope it's as clean and swift as last year was. 2 5% negative days back to back. I'll take that this month or into next month, and then I would revisit adding. But for now, the cash is sitting there. The longs I missed selling, like my Tetra Technologies, which is an energy stock that's gone down 35% because they announced a flat EBITDA year, even though they have compelling 4 or 5 year growth stories. And, that's one I want to buy more of. It never got to be a full position. But buying something at 4.5 to 5.5, watching it go to 12.5, not selling, and then buying it back at 6.5 or 7 is a little painful too. You know what I mean? It's not very fun, losing a double. But the story is this produced water facilities that they could treat and re-enter into the water stream or use for data center cooling, and that seems to be driving a lot of demand for their facilities, even though they haven't built one yet. They're still they've done the pilot, it worked, and they're now in negotiations with all the E&P companies to build these 100,000 barrel a day facilities, and I think they get to 1 million barrels a day in 4 years, 5 years, and at $2 a barrel, it's not hard to do the math. That's over $700 million in very high EBITDA margin business. And the whole company today is only 650 million in revenues, give or take. So it more than doubles the company. Plus, they have 2 or 3 other compelling growth stories going on. So
So this is WTTR,
no, this
Robert?
is TTI. WTTR
TTI.
is safe company. It doubled. I swapped out of that at 11 and change for the TTI at 5. So I like to buy.
Okay.
I would love to buy Select Water back, but my basis there was 7 and change, and I'm not. Yeah.
Had a great
Well,
move.
Powell Industries was a company in the power business I talked about circling 2 different times on the show. It went from 200 to 120 and 150. We missed it, and then it went to 600. So now 600 to 500. Oh, I'm chomping at the bit to buy the 500 when I passed last year at 125 or 135. Give me a break, right? It's now 5, 6 times sales. I was worried about buying it at 2 times sales because their margins had never been anywhere near today's levels. Their current net margin is higher than their historical gross margin. So people that understand businesses say, "Wow, that's pretty crazy." So, it's there's a lot of names like that. So I'm not going to buy a 20% dip in a name that's goes from 50 times earnings to 40 times earnings because I liked it at 10 times earnings. Bleep that.
Okay. So what else is on your anything else on your shopping list? You said there's 4 or 5
Yeah.
names, and I have the same question for Bob Morris. What's he, outside the oil patch, what's on your shopping list? Go ahead, Robert Marson.
I'm not divulging those names. I need them to go south.
Yeah.
You're gonna move the market with your buys when
I'm
you buy,
rooting them
Robert?
down. I'm rooting them down. They
Okay.
have to remain nameless. There's a couple of stocks that have done what I believe are transformational deals, and I think it's going to be very accretive and synergistically as well as reasonable valuation. So, in this environment with risk off, if you're taking on debt or issuing equity, the stock market seems to not like it very much. So I have a couple of, and both of these companies I've owned in the past, and both of these companies I've mentioned on the show in the past, in the beginning days of the show. So I traded them both for 50 to 100%, and they turned into much bigger stocks, but now they're coming down, and again, it's. I wish I looked at my screen, my new buy screen over the weekend, and there's still not a lot on there with the gating factors, the valuation parameters that I plug into the screen. So it's not that there's not that stocks doing well that are down a lot, but none of them are cheap. And you don't get these 2 to 5 outcomes half the time unless you have perfect setup, Steve. And so
Yep.
you can't just force new buys in because you need to produce a name on a TV show. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
Right.
It's
All right.
I need
We'll
a
wait.
lot more than a 5% decline in the S&P 500 to get a bunch of new names I have conviction in for 3-4 baggers.
So how will we know when you do?